All right, so here we are on April 26th, 2024. This episode is featuring Glen Chason and Azeem Nazir, and we're talking about a mock interview. And we're actually going to do a mock interview. So here's the structure that we're going to go through. So the first piece is our podcast purpose. So the purpose of the podcast is to shed some light on the next step in your career and what does that journey look like. All of the items that you're going to go through, some of the challenges you're going to face, ways to try to overcome those challenges, and ultimately land that next role that you're looking for. Then we'll do the actual mock interview, and then we'll discuss some of the pieces of the interview, the questions, the answers, provide some advice and some feedback, and then we'll have some closing remarks. So I'd like to just begin by asking Glen, can you introduce yourself briefly? Tell me about your company, tell me about yourself, and we're going to go through the full thing at the end, but just at a high level.
Sure. My name's Glen Chason. I work at RSM, Elite ServiceNow Implementation Partner. I'm a manager here located in Canada, British Columbia. So I'm a manager on the Canadian side. And then a little bit about me. This year marks 11 years that I've been working on the platform. So I started out on the development side, and then throughout the years, I kind of went up through the development side, technical architecture, and then also went up the process side as well. So business analyst, process architecture, and then moved into consulting full-time in 2015, I believe. And then started moving into team leading, engagement management, project management, every role that you can think of. And then have been consulting since 2015. I moved around to different companies, looking to always looking to gain more experience, more exposure. It's kind of been my driver, learn as much as the platform as I can, as much as possible. And what else? In 2019, I moved to British Columbia after wanting to move here for 25 years from Ontario. So I finally got here in 2019. And then I've done a lot of work. Once I moved to BC, I did a lot of work with provincial government here as well for quite a few years. And then in 2024, I was recognized and awarded ServiceNow MVP status from ServiceNow itself. And that kind of brings us up to date. That's me in a nutshell. Thanks
Awesome.
for having me on, Chris.
Yes, thanks for being a part of it. Glen also does one of the organizers of the Vancouver Developer Meetup, and we can dive into that a little more. Azeem currently works for the Canadian federal government and is looking to advance within his organization. So I just want to caveat that and mention it so that we know that this mock interview is all mock, including that part where he would be trying to apply outside of his organization. So, maybe if you're in an existing role and you're working directly for a ServiceNow customer or a company that has ServiceNow and you're looking to move into the partner space or into a different role, that's the purpose of this. But that is not part of Azeem's target journey. Do you want to just do a brief introduction? Or actually, I guess we'll dive right in because your introduction will come during the interview. Okay, so let's start the mock interview.
I guess just maybe a minute explanation before we start here. The questions that I would have today are very common, and I've kind of split them out. So standard practice for a lot of different organizations is the recruiters involved. I know Al was on the series there in the last episode, if I remember correctly, and that's very common too at organizations where they'll have a recruiter pre-screen. So their standard practice is usually I'd give a recruiter a few screening questions, very basic stuff like what's the difference between a client script and a business rule, and very at that level, very basic. And the recruiters are just going through and they're asking various questions about HR related and trying to see if they'd be a good fit for the company, how they communicate, and then they'd ask a few qualifying questions that I've passed on to them. And then at that point, if they passed that interview, the resume would come to my desk and then I would take a look and read it over and make decisions and stuff. So That's the only little difference today with the mock interview. We're just removing that recruiter piece from that. But what I've done with the questions, I've kind of taken a combo. There's, I think, one, if I remember correctly, that would be a recruiter screening question, and then the others are actually some of mine. So I've got a question bank, and I've taken some of them here. So on that note, let's get right into the mock interview. So Azeem, nice to meet you. Tell
Nice to
me
meet
about
you.
yourself. Give me an introduction.
Thank you very much. My name is Azeem Nazir. I've been in the ITSM industry for over 20 years. I have ITIL master certification, and mostly in my career, I was working on the ITSM process side, designing and owning the processes. Uh, Came familiar with ServiceNow in 2015 when my company implemented ServiceNow. So worked 3-4 years as a end user or ITSM process owner in ServiceNow. Then slowly I kind of started liking the platform, and I did my CSA and went into the admin side of it, and been involved for last 3-4 years heavily in the development or architecture side of things. In my current job role, last year we went live with the ServiceNow ITSM module with federal government. Was heavily involved with the partner firm implementing and designing the ITSM process in ServiceNow, and kind of I'm the not the platform owner, but I am right now acting as a admin slash developer slash BA type of role within my organization right now. And recently we acquired App Engine and SecOp, and we are now in the process of implementing SecOp and App Engine for ServiceNow. So really excited about that, and
That's
that's
awesome.
what I'm doing right now. Thank
It's
you.
awesome. Thank you for the summary. And I was just curious there. I heard you say, originally you were kind of on the process side, and then you started, I think you used the term, you started liking the platform, and then you wanted to get in a little deeper and start doing stuff. Can you talk about that? What caught you? What was the liking the platform that you said, I want to go deeper on this?
So previously, I used Remedy and BMC footprints, and even little tweak which we need to do, we would have to fly in or bring in consultant. They would design that, and then the beauty about ServiceNow platform is that once you learn some of the things, you can do it on the go. For previous platform which we have to wait for some time, months, we can do it in 5 minutes, like changing a field on the form, adding an extra question, or let's say your another department came in, they want to add a new service catalog request. If you're familiar with catalog builder, you would have done that in 10 minutes for them. So that's when I experienced that. I liked it. And at the end of the day, we are serving our client base, and if we make their life easier and create a catalog item quickly for them, or create a dashboard for them, like a lot of time management will reach out to you, hey, I just want to see this report or this dashboard, can you do it for me? And getting in, bringing a consultant taking a long time, or if you can do it in 5 minutes, that's what kind of excited me. And then the more and more I started using the platform, I started liking it, and I wanted to do hands-on, learn more. So that's what I meant.
I love it, Azim. I have my own stories the same. It was when I realized what the platform was capable of, like without getting into details of it. I was a full stack developer before, and I used to work in Java, C Sharp.net, and I set up an integration with the credit bureaus here in Canada, back at a company that I was with. And from that and full stack ground up to built probably took me about 6 months to do. And I wanted to test out and kind of see what was happening on this ServiceNow platform, because back in 2013, I'd never heard of it before. I was able to build a very, very basic, but it was a still concept, the integration between ServiceNow and the credit bureau. And The Java project probably took me about 5 months. The ServiceNow one took me 3 weeks. And I was, wow. So very similar story to you, where it was the capabilities that actually really attracted to me. That's awesome. Love it. I've looked over your resume, a lot of excellent resume. I see a lot of skills. I see a lot of certifications, ITIL, like ITIL certified, unbelievable. Like you, yeah, that's pretty impressive. And then the question that I had on here, so I can see on your resume when I took a look at it that you have over 9 years listed of experience in ServiceNow on the platform. Can you think of a time when you were on a project that was a very positive, memorable experience for you? One of those ones that you just really enjoyed the project. Can you think of one of those? Give me an example of that.
So I'll give you the most recent example when we implemented ITSM with the federal government. When I came in and I was hired for this project, uh, and I came and I heard like everybody horror stories about the government department, how they work and all that. And there was so me being ITIL guy, always being the process guy. When I came in and we did our change management workshop, I saw that within the same organization there were 4 or 5 different type of changes were done by different departments. And I heard literally saying by people that it's hard to bring everybody at the one page. And with the partner firm, the consultant, me and him, we both ran the workshop. We brought everybody from all stakeholder in one room. We asked them, we gave them actually different color sticky note, and we says, okay, from step 1 to step, can you please write the steps you do in the change management process. Every out of 7 or 8 process, all 4 or 5 teams, they have 4 or 5 same step. There is a one little bit tweak. Some of them wanted their change request before it's going for approvals, product owner or somebody do the approval for them and all that. So just one step, which we call it now POA approval, product owner approval. Other than that, we ex- show them walk through change management out of the box, and we were able to convince everybody. And I love it now how everybody at the same page, they're doing the same process, everything is documented. So that's the beauty about ServiceNow platform, that uh, how the process even designed in the out of the box as well, that it's designed in a way that it fix or it fits the real world needs, which I love about it. And like 1 or 2 step adding or tweaking or customization, it's easier enough to do that, so you don't have to wait for months or weeks. So the process designing, buying in stakeholders, and I think this is a big wow in a way, that once you explain something, so you can buy in stakeholders opinion or their approval quickly, because the platform itself is very flexible. So I like and love doing about that. Last week, actually, one of our department, they are doing visitor access request in the Excel sheet. Whoever's coming to the, and we got a meeting with them. They say that this is their pain point. They sometimes lose the Excel sheet or the data. So quickly in the app engine, we designed visitor access requests for them, 5, 6 fields, which company, who's coming, which floor they need access. 5, 6 field we add in the catalog item and design the request for them. And it was a big thing. And wow, I could see from their eyes like how they were excited and how they were happy that everything is now at one place. When somebody submit the request through employee center, it directly assigned to them. They get notification that request has been assigned to them. So those are the things which really excites me, because we are helping not only our clients, making life better and easier for them, but it's bring that wow factor. So which I really enjoy on daily basis.
Awesome. It's when you get those big game-changing moments for someone that's I'm the same. It really hits home. Um, Similar question, follow-up question to that. Same thing. On a project, can you describe a memorable challenge? So one that didn't go so well. Maybe it was a technical challenge. So maybe you were, developing a very difficult flow or some scripting or integration. Can you just talk about one of those projects where it was a challenge? And when you did hit that challenge, what did you do to overcome that challenge? What were kind of the steps and the you maybe investigated that kind of stuff? Can you speak to that?
So, uh, one of the big hurdle we faced when we were implementing ITSM module was through the inbound action that not only uh, through the employees, but some of the external vendors also send email to our various department through which, uh, like for security reason, we disable the external emails like Gmail, Hotmail, or those. So that uh, became quite a bit challenge because especially with new hires when somebody is not fully on board with the company yet and our security department, because with the federal government security clearance is huge when they hire someone, and so security department work 2-3 weeks with them to get secret security clearance. So that was a big hurdle for it, and we try to come various way, but we couldn't able to figure that out. So initially it was kind of a roadblocker for us, and actually one of our department, they refused to come on board from the previous ITSM system to ServiceNow because this was a kind of a showstopper for them.
Mm-hmm.
So um, then with the consultant and the partner firm, we did some investigation. We actually hold off their onboarding. The rest, all the department went on board with ServiceNow, but that department kind of left behind, which we management had that feel. We had that feel that like we cannot have a smooth transition of the whole IT departments into ServiceNow because of this. So, and then we did it, then finally we found the solution. So we created a mailbox where the external people can send the email, and then one of the department person goes in, see, validate those email, and then manually forward that, and then so we can create those inbound either incident or service requests for them. So this was quite a bit pain point for us for good 3 months, but then we eventually we got over with it. So I think right now there is another challenge which we are having is commissioners who intakes the fingerprints and that type of stuff on behalf of our so they are outside, they are not the employee of the organization. So and they have not email account on their individual name. It's just commissioners, and whoever is working on that day comes and take over that inbox. So that's the another challenge we are having right now, that we are in trying to streamline a process for them. So it's exciting as well, and it's challenging as well, that we try to have facing those type of things on daily basis, and we trying to figure out the solution for them. So that's what kind of happening, and we try to resolve it. So
So I guess to answer the second part of the question, where what do process and stuff to get out of the challenge is basically right now you're communicating, solutioning. Is that accurate?
yes,
Okay.
yes, exactly.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
And one thing I like to add is like we have bi-weekly sprints. So every third sprint, we kind of hold it off for investigative work, which I think I
Hmm.
really like about what we do. That we do 2 or 3 deployments straight. based on our backlog stories, and then we in between one sprint we kind of keep it for investigative work, because there are some roadblocks, there are some challenges
Yeah.
which we came across. So then that we dedicate to our developer and our consultant to do the investigative work, which we get feedback from our department, so which I really like, and I wanted to point that out.
Thanks for pointing it out. That's awesome. Another question. You've listed the establishment of governance practice to expedite resolution of issues that may potentially impede the use of the tool or impact release activity. Notice that you wrote that on your resume. Can you please describe some specific governance policies that you established? How were they
uh,
received at your organization?
Yeah, so especially we have some of the governance policies in the federal government, especially with the audit point of view.
Yeah,
And certain things we need to keep it for certain time frame. So those type of policies then we created and we implemented based on our organization requirement, not based on sometime out of the box, so that type of stuff. Because some of the especially with the privacy and data stuff for the government, they have a special policies, not like standard private organizations. So we created those governance policies based on our customization, based on our federal requirements.
and when we talk about that, are we talking about data cleansing? Like, because I know government has a lot of retention policies and they can only X amount of days it's got to be. Is that what we're talking about?
Yes, yes. And then also, some of the thing is that not everybody, you know how ITIL, everybody who has ITIL access, they can see all the tickets and
Yeah,
stuff. So
yeah,
there are some of the privacy or policy based on the clearance level. In government, we have reliability clearance,
yeah.
secret clearance, and top secret clearance. So based on that, we also design the policies, access controls, rules that if you are secretly cleared, what type of level of access you should access to
Gotcha.
documents, top secret. So
Can I get you to speak about, so it's, we're talking about data cleansing there, and I know like out of the box, there's nothing there, and then government would have their own policies. Can you talk about it at the technical level? What was the solution? How was that implemented at the technical level? Like what are you doing? Are you scanning fields? You putting them all in a field? Like, can you get into that level of detail at the technical of that data cleansing side?
So for the data cleansing side, some of our department, what we did domain separation. That is one of the thing which we did, and
Mhm.
so the especially with the top secret clearance side of things, for that we designed the domain separation. So that was required right from the get-go.
Yep.
We knew that we need to do that. The other thing which we are doing is that some of our cyber and physical security department, we are doing that through ACL rules, because some of the so they have I think
Yeah, like that would that
50-50.
would yeah, like the
Yes.
ACLs would control who can see it, but was there a technical solution to actually go back and remove the data after the retention policy ended? Like
uh,
after 30 days, go back, scan, delete the data or something like that?
No, we don't
No,
have
okay.
that. No,
Okay,
we
okay.
don't have that. Yeah,
Okay.
it's just that some of our department, they do, like, they communicate or they deal with across the board within the organization, but then they have some silos things which they do not want anybody
Gotcha.
to see or anybody. So that's when we use ACL rules to let
Okay.
few things visible and some of that, and
My
domain
apologies.
system.
When you said data cleansing, I thought, because I know government does have like retention policies that can only be kept for X amount of days and then has to be removed, but I misunderstood. That's fine. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Next question. So what's the fundamental difference between a UI policy and an ACL? When should one be used over the other? I'll repeat that. what's the fundamental difference between a UI policy and an ACL, and when should one be used over the other?
UI policy, to be honest, I know about ACLs, but UI policy, I'm not that clear. I have done it, but like right now I cannot explain it. So my
Okay,
apology.
I appreciate that. How about the ACL side? Why do you use ACLs? When would you use an ACL?
So ACL, you would use that if like you need to restrict access of certain user or individual, then you would apply ACL rules that like sometime you need to give them read or write access, sometime only read and write, not delete access. So you would apply ACL rules to manage that.
What about, I mean, I could always make a field read only on a form, right? So I could just go to a form if I didn't want someone to edit the short description field on incident, for example. I could make it read only and no one could touch it. Would that work for, would that be okay? Or like, how
But
does that
then
tie into an ACL?
yeah, so but you can create read-only form that nobody can touch it except admin. But then sometime you need to give access to few of individual or few of the teams. If let's say what we have about the short description is that when we have incident, regular incident, the short description field is unmodifiable, or you cannot modify it. But when you're raising that incident to major incident level, then uh, we allow the soon you pick you promoting that incident from regular incident to major incident, then it open up for our techs so they can add something if they need to raise. So then we use ACL rule there that at least they can explain why they are raising it to major incident and what was the reason. So that's when we let them modify.
Okay, thank you. And next question. It's very common knowledge that a client script should not call the glide record class. Everyone knows that. You shouldn't call the glide record class within a client script. Why shouldn't we? Why is that not best practice to call the glide record class in a client script? Everyone knows we shouldn't. My question is why? Why shouldn't we?
To be honest, not sure about that.
Okay, that's fine. Just an FYI for you with
Mhm.
when you do a glide record call in a client script, so you know how the client scripts run in the browser, right? They're on the form. Anytime that we do a call back to the server side to get data, there's a performance hit. If you have one, probably not a big deal. Two, not a big deal. But if you have 5, 10, 30, it can actually slow the user's experience down. I've actually personally seen some clients forms where they'll have 30, 40, 60 of these situations, and the user can wait a couple seconds, which doesn't sound like a lot, but I don't know about you, but when I'm home on my phone scrolling around, I'm not waiting. If that page doesn't come up in a second, I'm gone, right? So,
Yeah,
okay.
makes sense. Thank you for explaining.
Well, my pleasure. And let's do a quick scan of your resume again here. So I can see in your resume, in your skills, you've got some language listed there. I can see SQL, HTML, XML. I see C. So you got C. Can you speak to me about your programming experience in those languages, in SQL, HTML, XML, C? Can you speak to those?
So within the organization, we had internal courses. So through Learning Tree, we did SQL course and also XML.
Mhm.
Especially when we were not with the ServiceNow, but when we had footprints, BMC footprints at that time, HTML was required for us to make any changes on the platform. So that's when I did those courses.
Okay, awesome.
And yeah, also,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
so-
Go ahead.
sorry. Also, I'm within my organization. I did ITIL master, but then I'm also certified ITIL trainer as well.
Yeah.
So I train within our company ITIL Foundation users as well.
Awesome. And then my final question, what's your ideal role? What are you looking for? If you could make up your ideal role, your new role within your current organization, and someone there said, it's yours, Azeem, take it. What would be your ideal role?
My ideal role, to be honest, and I don't like shy saying that, like, development is not my educational background. So I learned to do the development because I like the platform and stuff, but that's not my strongest point. My ideal job role would be based on my ITSM skill sets, uh, knowing the ServiceNow platform. I personally think myself as looking or ideal role for me, and I think I spoke with Chris as well to for solutioning, architecting, designing the process. If we have any issues, solving that, and then giving that to my development team to design that process for me. So solution architect, process designing, that would be my ideal role, and I enjoy doing that. Plus it goes in a way along with my previous education and my experience background, because those are my strongest point and I want to stick to my strongest point. So that would be my ideal job role. If you would say, Azeem, I have that role ready for you, I would love to take that.
Wouldn't that be awesome if we could name the role that we want? Wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, thanks, Azeem, very much. It was a pleasure meeting you. Thank you for taking the time with me today. I'll review everything. I'll review my notes, and then I'll be in touch with you next week, letting you know one way or the other if we're gonna proceed. Before we close out the mock interview, do you have any questions for me?
And I would like to thank you for your time and your insight. And one last question, which I usually ask during my interview at the end, that is there anything in my profile that concerns you or you would like to know more about it? Please let me know.
Great question. No, I looked at your resume beforehand. I scanned it, and the questions that I was interested in asking was the ones I asked today. But if I do if there is something up between now and when I get back to you next week, for sure I'll reach out to you. And then yeah, so we'll speak to you next week and enjoy your weekend. Nice to meet you again, Azeem.
Right,
Sorry.
thank you very much.
And then that would actually
Yep.
close out the mock
That's
interview.
it. Excellent. Okay, so that went very well. We went through some great questions, some great answers, and we also saw some situations where you don't know the answer. And that's something that I face regularly as well, going through some of these pieces. No one can know the entire platform, and no one can answer every single technical question that's thrown at you, especially during an interview. So having the skill to speak to what you know, the ability to also be open and honest on what you don't know builds trust, and then identifying how you're going to move forward in there. So we're just going to review the 5 questions that were asked in order. So the first one that you had talked about, Glenn, was about speaking about the positive, memorable experience.
There was actually one before that.
Oh, was there? Sorry.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
There was one before that, and I usually do this. I slipped it in there. So you remember when Azeem said that he liked ServiceNow, and I asked him, "Can you speak about it?"
Mm-hmm.
So I usually ask a question like that because I know people are nervous, right? You get on a call, you're in an interview. I've done a ton of interviews. I've also I've interviewed myself a ton of times. So I usually slip a question in like that to kind of calm the nerves. So that was just that. That's
Okay.
the reason why I asked that one,
Sure.
just to kind of bring the nerves down. But then,
Okay.
sorry, Chris, go ahead.
No,
Now
that's fine. So
now
how
the
did he
first-
answer that? How did he answer that one then?
He did it well. Like I didn't get the sense that he was nervous right off the top. Anyway, he was, you know, he was comfortable. He wasn't stuttering. He was speaking clearly. So I didn't get that sense. But yeah, I loved Azeem's answer. It kind of rang truth to me because that was one of the reasons, same reason I was interested in the platform.
Okay.
So, and then I went to the first question.
Right. Okay. And then how did he do on the positive, memorable experience question?
Yeah, I think he did well on the positive experience question. I know this is the one where you were talking about the getting the whole process, everyone on the same page. So I liked your answer for that one. And then the challenge one, the challenge one, same thing, was a good answer. And what I'm looking for at this time with questions like these, the reason why I'm asking them, I'm looking for a few things. So I'm looking how you communicate. I'm looking, can you speak to someone and clearly explain whatever it is, doesn't matter what it is, but can you clearly articulate and explain what a process is, or what, you know, whether it be technical, whether it not be technical. That's what I'm looking for in these first one or two questions, is how you communicate with me.
Okay. Now that's also a two-parter question. So when you're in these interview situations, sometimes they're thrown at you. So you have to always be aware that it's two parts. Answer part one, take a breath, and then answer part two, just to make sure that you don't leave anything unanswered through that question, because that also shows attention to detail, being able to recall that you were asked two pieces. And this is a very common situation that comes in regular meetings, where someone will ask you a two-sided question. You know, what's an advantage to doing something in this manner, and what's a disadvantage? So you have to make sure that you're thoroughly answering both sides of the question when there are two sides to answer. Okay, let's talk about the next question, the governance practice one. How do you feel he did through there?
I liked his answer. It kind of raised a red flag to me because, Azeem, you used a lot of we's. We did this, and our team, and you actually used the term our developers in there, which kind of raised a little red flag to me. I'd recommend, if you're in an interview, try to not use the word our and we. Keep it to you. But I like the answer, but I did pick up there was a lot of that language in there, and it kind of gets me thinking, well, did Azeem do this? His resume says that he did it. And that was my question. I specifically why I chose that question, because your resume actually said that. So just a tip for you, just watch for those we's and ours. And, you know, you're in an interview. You're the superstar, right? It's you did this. So other than that, I think the answer was great. It was a great answer.
Great. And yeah, that speaks to, I was on a team that did this, or I was part of the project that accomplished these things. And then here's what I specifically did. So yeah, like just to reiterate, Glenn, what Glenn said, we need to express, what did I do? Because I'm trying to win the job for myself. I'm not trying to win the job for my team at this point for the purpose of this interview. So we had those two technical questions. And like I said at the top, these ones are commonly asked, or things along this line. However, we're never going to know everything. So, Glenn, let's jump back into a mock interview and ask me the questions. Those two, please. Pretend I'm in a suit, but go Canucks.
All right. So first question, Chris. What's the fundamental difference between a UI policy and an ACL? When should one be used over the other?
Well, there's several fundamental differences between a UI policy and an ACL, or an access control list. A UI policy is generally used to hide and show different fields on a specific form, or for a specific table. And you can make things mandatory. There's new features in Washington, D.C. and the Vancouver release that allows you to set values and clear values on the form. However, it really only applies to that form. And in some cases, if the field is only present on that form's view, because we can set up different views on the forms, the UI policy may run into some operational or some technical issues where it's trying to set or hide a field or show something that it shouldn't. Whenever you set a field to mandatory, it also will automatically show it as well. Versus an access control list. This detects database operations and operates at the database level. And this can be used to govern who can read, write, do report views, and who can delete things at the database level. This is executed every single time, no matter how the data is accessed, through an integration, through code, through a list view. UI policies, again, don't run on those list views. So you can't enforce a mandatory field on that list view without doing that at the dictionary level, but back to ACLs. So that's when you would use an ACL. And in addition to that, there's an admin override feature that you have on ACLs where I'm not enforced. It allows me through no matter what. If I have the admin role, there's a checkbox for that. And a UI policy you can apply to everybody, admin or not. So I would use a UI policy if I'm doing a form, like a service catalog item. That's a great use case. You're submitting something, and let's say one of the choices in my drop-down list is other, and then I want to give them a text box underneath it. I can say, okay, if this value is set to other, then show the other prompt or the other text box. If I need to lock down, read or write access, then I would use an ACL. Let's say a task record has an inactive flag, or the active flag is set to false, and I don't want to allow people to write to that field. Then I would use an ACL, and that will enforce it platform-wide for me.
Awesome. Thanks very much for your answer, Chris. Much appreciated. Next question for you, Chris. It's common knowledge that a client script should not call the glide record class. Everyone knows that. Why is this bad practice?
Well, yes, it is common knowledge that we should not be using that client script to call that glide record class. There are large performance impacts that eventually can negatively impact the performance of your entire instance if you're doing this. And in addition to that, the best practice recommendation is to use a glide Ajax call. And this is a client server call where you have a client script that uses glide Ajax to reach out to a script include in the backend. And this script include contains the glide record operation that you're looking. So you can pass values back and forth this way.
How many values can we pass? How many values can we pass?
That's a great question. I'm not sure what the limit is on those parameters.
Can we only call one back, or can we call multiple back?
Oh, you can do multiples. Yeah, you can do multiple calls back and forth. If you want, you can send a JSON object if you wish as well. And then also a best practice recommendation on the backend piece is to not use glide record at all. Mm-hmm. It is in fact to use glide record secure, which does enforce your ACLs that we discussed earlier.
Mm-hmm. And when we do calls, do we have the ability, like I know we can do a glide Ajax call, get one single value back, pass it back to the client script. Is there a way for us to use glide Ajax where we can, in our script include, we can send multiple objects back, multiple values back to our client script? Is that possible?
Yeah, you can return a JSON object, and then you can parse the JSON. So the server-side script will send back a JSON object, which can contain multiple of what they call value pairs, which is your field name and then your value.
Awesome.
These are dynamic things. So let's say I wanted to pass back an entire glide record. I could do so. And then on the client side, I do what's called JSON parsing. And that parses the response and gives me a format in which I can easily access individual value pairs and take action based on the return. Yeah.
Awesome. Much appreciated. Thanks for the two answers, Chris.
Okay. So that comes from experience. That also comes from, having done that several times learning on the portal. Glide Ajax was taught to me repeatedly by Chuck Tomasai's episode 33 of Tech Now. And this is something that I pull up, and even if I'm doing it tomorrow or later today, I pull it up and go through the steps that way because I found that to be the easiest way to get it working, get it done. There's also some very thorough documentation now on the doc site that cover how to do it with some examples. So, if I don't know the answer, the only other piece that I usually say in these things is, I'm not sure, but here's the places I would go to find out. How would I find that answer? So my first thing is I would go to the doc site. That gives you the product information, things like that. If I'm looking for something coding, I would say, typically on the doc site, you're not going to find a lot of coding help. But then I'm going to go to the developer doc site and look for that because that's where the code stuff is handled. If I still am struggling, or if I found partial answers, or the documentation doesn't thoroughly cover my exact use case, then I might reach out and search through the community. And then I might actually post on the community for help. I might reach out to other people on my team and my network to get that answer. So it's okay to say you don't know. And even in that one question, I don't know how many variables you could pass in. I know there's a limit on Glide Ajax and the number. Do you have that answer, Glenn? Can you share it?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'll explain why after why I like asking questions like that. But,
yeah.
No.
Okay, so you go through and how would I get that answer? How am I going to figure it out, or at least try to figure it out? Cover those steps, because every single day on the job, we're forced to say, I don't know. Mm-hmm. That means that's a skill. So those that are able to quickly run through how they would find the answer are going to be, elevated up or have that advantage because they've built that skill and have developed it. So why'd you ask the hard one?
I love Chris's answer to that, because then you'd tell me where what resources are available to you, and you can go look. Because what and I've seen this a lot of times, when people don't know an answer, there's nothing, like Chris said, there is absolutely nothing wrong with saying, I don't know. No one knows everything. That's not possible. There's nothing wrong with that. Where I get nervous is when they don't know, and they just start talking, and they start talking and talking. And then, I'd never say it, but it's like, you should just say, I don't know. There's nothing wrong with that answer. So one of the reasons why I like asking that type of question. So you notice when Chris was talking about the Glide Ajax question there about, why is it bad practice to claw back? There's a difference between developers and consultants. So you have some fantastic developers that could code circles around me, know tomorrow. Maybe some of them are not the best communicators, and that's okay. That's perfectly fine. That's the space they want to stay in. And there are some absolutely incredible developers in that space. And then you also have individuals that are developers that have business skills, have great communication skills, typically referred to in the industry as solutions consultants, right? These are your combo roles of your developer and your business analyst, kind of one person that can do both roles. So you'll notice that's why when I was asking Chris that question, I'm looking to see, one of the things that I look for personally in my interview, if I'm speaking to am I speaking to a developer, or am I speaking to a solutions consultant? And what I'm looking for is, can I get them out of business communication, business speak, and flip the conversation on them to go technical on them? And if you notice, that's what I was doing with Chris. And Chris did an excellent job. He flipped the conversation. He went from business speak, and then we got right into the words. So that's just something that I look for, because it is part of the job, and I need to know. And it's okay if I'm looking for someone that's just going to be a developer and they're going to take user stories and they're just going to push work. That's awesome. But if I'm looking for someone, depending on the company that I'm hiring for, I may need someone that has very good customer facing skills. And so that's why I ask questions like that, to see, who am I talking to here? Is it a pure developer, or are we talking to a solutions consultant? So,
awesome. Okay, so we've also spoke to your programming experience, Azeem. That was good. You had a question ready to go, which was awesome at the end. So
Yes.
always have a question, but I usually recommend you have three. One, I loved your question. Is there anything else I need to expand on? Do you have any other questions about me?
Yes.
Question two, what does a typical day look like in this role? You ask them that. And then question three, what are the next steps? What can I do on the next steps? And sometimes it's sitting tight and being patient and not hounding people or not reaching out and following up every week. But it is those three questions are going to become a minimum for you to say, do you have any other questions specifically about me? Did I leave anything on the table? Because you don't want to do that in your interview. And then you need to understand what a typical day looks like in that role, because not only are you being interviewed, you're interviewing them. Maybe the role isn't going to fit for you, and you may not know that. You want to learn as much as you can about the role to make sure that you're not going into something that is going to be off of the path for you. Perhaps you want to move into a developer role, but when you ask that question, you find out, well, it's 50% developer, 50% administration. Those roles exist and they're great, but that might not be for you. So you need to understand what a typical day looks like so that you're educated and understanding on where you're headed and what this looks like. And then, like I said, next steps. Always, always, always ask about next steps, and so you can understand their process. So, the RSM hiring process is going to be different than everybody else. So you want to make sure that you understand it. Going like you say for government, maybe the next step is, well, we have to look at security clearance. Okay, that can take a long time to go through and get vetted. So if there's anything you can do on your side to maybe start it earlier to go get it. In fact, I maintain it now. So I maintain it, and even if I'm not going to be working and needing it, I'm going to have it because suddenly that gives me an edge. So if there's somebody that hasn't gotten it, they're at risk of maybe not getting it versus a candidate that does have it. So thank you both so much for it. So let's move into now, just a little bit of, how do you feel that went? Sorry, Azeem. We need feedback from you.
Oh, thank you, Chris. So I think it's a really good experience, and how Glenn was asking question, and like he mentioned in his conversation as well, that when he asked me what I like about the platform, that kind of put me on the ease and kind of at a level where I was comfortable talking, and so I enjoyed it. And like you said that I have no like hesitation in a way, and I think last episode we spoke with Al as well, that if I don't know something, then I'm saying that upfront. I think that and exactly like Glenn said, that put us in a trust level, that at least I'm honest instead of going around in circle and getting out of nothing. So at least, so I really enjoyed it, and I think it's a good learning experience as well. And thank you to both as well, that the question I didn't know, I have written down, and I was thinking about going into the documentation and see the answer, but you guys explain it very well, so which is really good. So yeah, thank you very
Awesome.
much.
Okay. All right. So, Glenn, now it's time to tell us what's going on in your life in the ServiceNow ecosystem. What are you up to? What do you want to talk about?
Oh, didn't expect this. What's going on in my ServiceNow world? So knowledge, the ServiceNow Knowledge Conference is coming up next week, the week after. So I will be attending Knowledge. Very much looking forward to that. It's been quite a while. I haven't been to Knowledge since 2019, so I'm quite excited for that. So to return. What else? And then I guess the other thing I can think of is, as Chris mentioned in the beginning, I co-host the ServiceNow developer meetup here in Vancouver. So we are going to have to get a new meetup booked pretty soon. I'm gonna try and get it. We usually like to do them quarterly. So we should probably have one in June. And what that one will be is a learning one. So we do social meetup, learning meetup, social meetup, learning meetup. So we're due for a learning one. So take a look, watch out for that. We'll probably be doing that in June. So if you're in the Vancouver area, would love for you to come out and join us.
Yeah, and after the learning one is going to be the famous annual barbecue on a beach. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Just tell us a bit about RSM.
Yeah, elite Canadian. Well, I shouldn't say Canadian. Elite ServiceNow implementation partner. So Canadian team. We've got many Canadian spread across each province or most of the provinces. So we're spread out, and then also in the U.S., all over the U.S. Very large U.S. team around the globe as well. And yeah, I joined RSM just about a year ago, and very happy. I get the opportunity to work with a outstanding implementation team, and that's always a pleasure to do that.
Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you both for joining us going through this part of the journey. And thank you to everybody who joined us live. And also thanks to everybody who has watched the video or is currently watching it. Appreciate everybody's time, and we will see you soon. Okay. Thank you so much. Have a good day.